Are you ready for a word from God that will give you direction? Are you ready to renew your mind and receive biblical answers to your secular problem? Are you ready, willing, and able to make a change for the better in your life? If you are, then listen to the Right Rev Rhino Show for mind-renewing, empowering, encouraging, and enriching biblical messages that will give you direction in making that change. The Right Rev Rhino takes everyday situations and puts biblical support to them. A gifted pastor and teacher, he has the ability to have your mind seeking more and more knowledge about God. AJ the Right Rev Rhino Watkins, Thursdays at noon at www.spreaker.com/user/Right Rev Rhino. Get it? Got it? Good. God bless the Right Rev Rhino.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We had a technical difficulty earlier. I don't know what was going on, but we broke contact. That's the challenges of technology. Nevertheless, it will not stop me from recording this message. I'm back on the air. We're back on the air. Amen. We're back on the air. Now, I want to pick up and talk about what we were talking about. I was stating that oftentimes you will find people in your life. Every now and then you run across people that will give you all the love in the world until you don't do what they say you do. Until you don't do how they think you ought to do. Until you don't do what they want you to do. But that is okay. That's just fine. I want you to understand something, brothers and sisters. We're going to be talking today about forgiveness. Forgiveness, yes. St. Matthew chapter 6 verses 14 through 15. St. Matthew chapter 6 verses 14 through 15. And we use the King James Version for those of you that are so inclined to use other versions of the Bible. We use the King James Version here at the Right Rev Rhino Show. So with that being said and enough being done, we want to talk to you this afternoon where I am from the subject, or actually it's evening. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. It is for you, not for them. In a promise that was given by Christ in the text, we will find the advisory. If you forgive, your heavenly Father will also forgive. Not as if this were the only condition required. There must be repentance and faith and new obedience, but as where other graces are in truth, so this will be a good evidence of the sincerity of our other graces. He that relents toward his brother or sister thereby shows that he repents toward God. Those in the prayer are here called trespasses. These are wrongs done to us in our bodies, in our goods, our reputation. They're called trespasses. And trespasses are an extenuating term for offenses, or paratomata. Stumble, that's what it means. Slips, fails, or falls. All of that. Take note of this. It is good evidence and help to call the injuries done to us by a mollifying, excusing name. Don't call them treasons, but trespasses. Not willful injuries, but casual inadvertencies. Peradventure, it was an oversight. Therefore, make the best of it. We must forgive if we want to be forgiven. Therefore, we must not only bear no malice, nor mediate revenge, or upbraid our brother or sister with the injuries he or she has done to us, nor rejoice in any hurt that befalls them. In other words, when somebody hurts them, or if they hurt you really bad and things come back and hurt them, don't rejoice in it. Just look at them and say, yep, you get what you pay for. If you hurt some people, karma, as some people call it, but we call it that God will recompense and fight your battles for you. We must be ready to help him or her, do good things to him or her, and if or when he or she repents and desires to be friends again, we must be free and willing to rebuild that relationship. Now, let me put a pin right there like I did last time before we had technical difficulties. If a person continually hurts you, you don't have to rebuild that relationship. Let me say that again. If a person continually hurts you, you don't have to rebuild that relationship. You do not have to sit there and let people continually say, I'm sorry, and then go back and do it again, especially after you have told them, please don't do that again, because that is not good. That is not cool. You may not get angry. You may not even be hurt by their sententious, pusillanimous, and narcissistic words and phraseology that they use to try to slander or kill your character or bring down your motivation. But if they want to recompense and they recompense and you consistently go back and they keep doing the same thing over and over, they don't want that. They just want a little bit of control. Let them go and move on with your life. Forgive them and move on. Now, I'm going to tell you something. A lot of times, as I was saying earlier, they're out here in America, we have the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show. And on the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show, Roadrunner and Coyote actually gets into it. And a lot of times when they get into an actual physical altercation, you will see a lot of dust. And what happens is you'll find Roadrunner still standing on the cliff while Coyote has somehow, some way managed to be standing off the edge of the cliff. And when he realizes that he has stood off the edge of the cliff and has no support, he falls down in the valley. What happens with people that consistently hurt you is that when you allow them to keep coming back, eventually you're going to have a major falling out. And when you have that major falling out, God is going to fix it so you will remain on the cliff. And they're going to look and realize that they have no support. And like the Roadrunner had the support and he beat and ran on back to where he was going, you're going to have to beat and let them fall while you go on where God is taking you. In a warning in verse 15, Jesus warns us about harboring ill feelings toward people. I'm trying to tell you, don't be mad at them. They might even try to make it, they might even fall out with you and then turn around and come back to you later and try to make it seem like you the one that's hurt. You the one that's still mad and all that stuff. When actually you're not mad at all. What you have chosen to do was to not deal with the negative foolishness and buffoonery that they bring to your table. Sometimes even your best friend will work your nerves so bad that it might take anywhere from 6 months to a year to patch up, and then there might be times where you might not patch it up at all and move on to some new friends. They might still consider you a friend, but they will be a friend that you can't support them anymore because they refuse to deal with whatever it is that has caused them to have that excessive anger. So, but if you forgive not those that have injured you, those trespasses, that is a bad sign, and you have not met the conditions that God is talking about in our text, but are altogether unqualified for pardon. And therefore your Father, whom you call God, who offers you his grace upon reasonable terms, will nevertheless not forgive you if you don't forgive. If you are defective in forgiving, you should not expect the comfort of being forgiven. On the contrary, you should expect to have your spirit brought down by some affliction or other incident to help you comply with the duty of forgiving. Let me ask you, when you get upset, how many times have you walked around mad at that person and stayed mad and all that stuff, and all of a sudden you started getting sick, not feeling well, not wanting to get up, or anything of that nature? Well, let me tell you something. What happens with that is when you decide to forgive that person, you ever notice that you immediately begin to feel better? You feel better physically first. Then you start to feel better emotionally. Then you start to feel better mentally. And most importantly, you start to feel better down in your soul and spiritually. And therefore, what you have done is forgiven and relinquished that incident and moved on with your life. Does it say forgive and forget? No, you don't forgive and forget anything. You don't forget things so it don't happen again. But when you consistently allow a person to come back and then they get angry and do the same thing to you again, there comes a time when you have to leave people where they are and stop allowing them to distract you from your God-given destiny. People will call everybody with you When they get mad at you, some folk will call everybody around you all kind of bad names. They'll call them all out their name. Don't even know the person. Don't even know you. They'll call themselves doing a background check. Let me tell you something. If somebody does a background check or call themselves doing a background check on you and say they got a hold of your social security number, lock their butt up. Lock them up. If somebody does a background check and you didn't sign any documentation relinquishing your social security number, that's theft and that's a fraud. That's theft and a fraud. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and file a petition, file a claim, and have the sheriff's department go on out there and pick their behind up. Now, if they tell you they did a background check and all the information they gave to you is wrong when they call themselves being mad, don't even worry about it because it ain't you and you know it's not you. So let it go. It ain't even worth it. Let them call you whatever they want to call you. Let them say whatever they want to say. It's not what they call you, brothers and sisters, but it's what you answer to. And if you answer to all that foolishness, then you're falling right into their trap, because a lot of people that have been hurt down through the years want you to be just as hurt as they are, regardless of what happens. And also be advised that when they come down off of all of that anger and frustration, what they'll often try to do is they'll call you or text you or whatever and say they hope that you are not angry still. Well, you never was angry in the first place, but what you have chosen to do was forgive. And when you forgive, your anger it goes down and dissipates. You're no longer angry, but you're more happy and content with yourself because of the fact you are actually protecting yourself. And when you forgive, what you have done is told yourself that regardless of what somebody might say about me, whether it's positive or negative, I got to keep on being me, and I got to keep on reaching for my destiny that God has provided for me. So therefore, if they can go with you part of the way, or if they want to stop right there and get off, or if you got to stop the train and put them off so that you don't get distracted from what you are supposed to do. Forgiveness is for you and not for them. Always remember that. Forgiveness is for you and not for them. Those who would have found mercy with God must show mercy to their brethren, and we should not expect God to stretch out the hands of his favor to us unless we lift up our hands to him without wrath. In other words, don't hold no grudges over the people's head. Remember it, but don't hold a grudge about it. You remember something that happens. You remember bad experiences. Let me tell you something. Most people that rage and rage and rage, a lot of people I have learned through trial and error and through extensive research, that a lot of people who rage on somebody for no reason at all are raging and letting out something that they've been holding in that was done to them by somebody in their past that made them feel helpless and left them hurt, shattered, and broken. Yes. And when they left them hurt, shattered, and broken, that person went to go talk to somebody about it, and the people didn't believe that person and thought the person was just being overly accusatory and saying things just to try to get somebody in trouble, when actuality it did happen. Whether it be, and most of the time this comes from people who were molested as children, who were molested and couldn't do nothing about it. For young girls, it was molested by some uncle, or molested by some brother, or molested by even their fathers at times. You got sick people in all over the place, and they got into that foolishness and they couldn't get out because they felt helpless. So they are angry. That seed of anger has been planted from childhood. And when they become adults, angry children, when they're subconsciously angry, become fully consciously angered adults. And when they become fully conscious angered adults, whatever you might say that might remotely remind them of that weary night, or those dreary years, or those dreary weeks, months, and days that they had to deal with the molestation, you're going to catch it. They don't want to admit it. They won't admit it, but they'll let you have it. But inside, they know what's really going on. And most of the time, it's either that or it's something else that someone has done to them that they never got the opportunity to close that door. So whenever they rage, they come at you crazy. Whenever they rage, everybody better clear the room, because they are going to let you have it. If you happen to be a favorite target of theirs and you're supposed to be their friend, nobody talk to their friends like that. Nobody. If you that angry, you need to get somewhere and sit your tail down and get some prayers going, or get some chants going, or whatever you might do, depending on what you do. If you're a Christian, you need to get to praying. If you're a Muslim, you need to get to praying. If you Buddhist and all that, you need to get to praying. Put your incense on the altar and get to praying to cool your spirit down. But yet you call yourself all this and all that when everybody can't be wrong. Be wary and be wise, brothers and sisters, that if you get to the point to where you got to call yourself checking out everybody, you better make sure that somebody ain't checking you out and making sure that the facts are actually straight. Be careful, because when you call yourself messing up somebody else's life, trust and believe somebody's checking up and waiting to use the information they find on you to mess up your life. So watch yourselves out there. Forgive folk and move on. Don't let that foolishness get under your skin. Forgive them and move on. A lot of times they want to call you and say, I hope you got over your anger, like they hurt you or something. You ain't hurt nobody. A lot of times those of us that have been mature enough to forgive folk and move on, we don't have anguish, boo. We have what is known as strength. We have what is known as power. We have what is known as intestinal fortitude. We have those type of things to where we forge ahead regardless of what you might say while you stand on the side of the road. Amen, somebody. Those things that you are talking about, you don't want to have. You got to have clean hands without wrath. That's called in 1 Timothy 2:8. If we pray in anger, we have a reason to fear God will answer in anger. In other words, God get him. God get her. I hope God do this to you, and I hope God do that to you, and I pray that God do this, and I pray that God do that. But what you're failing, you're praying a wrath. And what's going to happen is what you're praying will actually fall back on you. That person that you call your friend and you talking to them crazy and everything, when they get enough of your mess, they're going to move on. And when they move on, you can't blame nobody but the person in the mirror. They're not mad at you. They just ain't got time for your foolishness. They're not mad at you. They ain't got time. And if you ever notice, they will call everything, like I said before, they'll call everything around you all out their name too, because they mad at you. Then everything that you're dealing with is no good. Everyone that you're dealing with is no good because it hasn't met their perfect, quote unquote, approval. Yes. So remember that. And most of the time, the people that do this kind of stuff, they usually find themselves calling themselves being perfect anyway. So what happens is you let them live in a perfect little world in their own little box and do their own little thing. So therefore, don't pray in anger. It has been said, prayers made in wrath are written in gall. What reason is it that God should forgive us if we fail to forgive our brothers and sisters who have offended us? Christ came into the world as the great peacemaker, brothers and sisters, and not only to reconcile us to God, but to reconcile us to one another. And in this, we must comply with him. Must always try to make peace. If peace means walking away, moving away, getting away, then you made peace. Because a person can't argue when you ain't there. Many people today are walking around living in a box, bubble, or behind some type of wall because of their failure to forgive someone for doing or saying something hurtful to them in their past. You have mean-spirited people who hand folks over to God's mercy, yet they don't show any mercy themselves. These same people have little vicious minds that are constantly abounding with anger and revenge, and are so obsessed with anger and revenge that they become incapable of feeling the pleasure of forgiving their friends and their enemies. In other words, they become almost psychopathic because they want you to be hurt just like they hurt. But the hurt that they're having is self-inflicted wounds because they refuse or didn't get the opportunity to release the anger on the person or the target that actually brought them the hurt in the first place. I have found that those who never pardon are those who do wrong in other areas of their miserable little lives and in their relationships with other people. Their minds have become narrow and will never know the God-given glory of forgiveness as long as they keep it crowded with foolishness. In essence, what I'm saying is you got people that ain't nobody right but them. I said it that way. Ain't nobody right now. There is nobody. There is no one properly in proper form but them. But ain't nobody right but them. Whenever they argue, ain't nobody right but them. If you ever notice, they want you to go do the dirty work too. Why don't you go tell so and so that I seen this? No, you go tell them. If you that good, and you that tough, go over there and tell them, if I go over there, something might happen. Yeah, you might find out, you might get surprised from time to time. Every Christian ain't no coward, and every preacher ain't no punk. So you better find out what folks are saved from before you run up in folks' face. Because your mind might tell you one thing, and then run up on that individual, and that person will show your body that it ain't going to happen. You better hear me out there, cyber congregation. Dr. Watkins is talking to you today. I want you to understand that forgiveness is for you and not for them. So they don't want to forgive you. They want to be angry. They want to have all this hatred in. I have found that those who never pardon are those who do wrong. They always doing wrong, one way or the other. And let me tell you something. You can have people that you can love. You can have people that you can show love. You can hug them. You can squeeze them. You can do all kind of things. But as soon as something triggers that mechanism of them being angry, you are no longer, you are the worst thing since sewers been backing up in flood systems. You are beneath the scum of the earth. They will tell you to go to hell. They will tell you to do all kind of stuff. But yet on the flip side of that coin, a couple of days later, they want to be loved. They want to be hugged. Now you can do all of that, but you don't have to take that abuse. Let me say that again. I don't care what friendship you've established. You do not have to take that abuse. You forgive them folk and you move on with your life. If you got to cut folk off and stop communicating with them, then you do that. It's not the silent treatment. It is the you treatment or the me treatment. I'm going to treat myself better because I know for a fact that I can talk to myself better than this, and I deserve better than this because I haven't literally done nothing to you, but yet you're accusing people of doing things that you have no solid foundation that's being done. So when you go around just accusing people, that's because the fact that they are on you, because the fact that they are relinquishing on you the spirit that is inside of them that they can't seem to unance. And when they can't let it go, what transpires is that they end up fighting one with another, and they'll fight with themselves if they could, but they'll fight with anybody, whoever it is. It don't matter, male or female, they'll fight with you. It don't matter how you look. It don't matter how big and strong you are. They know they can't physically whoop you. They know they can't do nothing with you, but yet they will try to fight you. They'll try to pick something up and hit you with it. They'll throw things at you. All that kind of craziness and madness. That is a demon that has grown up in that person, and that person can't shake that thing. You need to pray for them. You need to look out for them from a Christian standpoint and love them, but you do not have to take that abuse. Get out from under it. Jesus told us to forgive one another if we want to be forgiven by God in our text. However, people of all ages, genders, and ethnicities are walking around still angry and upset with a person who is not losing any sleep at night thinking about them being angry or upset. You have people who have been dead and in their graves for over 20 years who still have a hold on the minds of people walking around and talking today. Unbelievable failure to forgive will cost you valuable space in your heart, mind, and soul for the blessings God has for you. However, your mind is crowded and hoarded with old hurts, pains, and issues that really have no value other than you observing the characteristics and not allowing those issues to happen to you again. Instead, what I'm saying here is, instead of moving on with your life, you too busy looking for the negative info, waiting for something to come up to remind you of your past because you are living in your past. Now, we're all a product of our past. But if it wasn't for our past, then we would not have a present to go into a great future. But if you keep dragging your past into your present, you won't have a future because you're living between the past and the present, and you're not looking forward toward tomorrow with anybody because of the fact you want to fight with everybody. You're not going to always be right. And when you find people that are always right, just shut up, y'all, and let them say what they're going to say. Then walk out, close the door, and go on and do what you're going to do. Because that way, and forgive them for what they said, because in their anger, always remember though, in regards to how much they apologize, a drunk mind and an angry mind always speak with a sober tongue. Let me say that again. No matter how much they apologize, a drunk mind and an angry mind will always speak with a sober tongue. So what's inside of them and what they're really thinking about you is really what will come out of you. I don't care how much they try to make an excuse of what they say. and for what, and for make an excuse of what they tried to say. Proverbs 4:23 would tell us, above all else, guard your heart for everything. That's right. So you got to be careful. Be careful of the certain things that you do. Be careful of the certain things that you say. Guard your heart, brothers and sisters, because if you don't, you will find out. People going to find you out. They sure will. Like it says, the Proverbs 4:23 will tell you also, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. In other words, there it is. What's inside of you is what's going to come out of you. Issues in life that you did not take care of. When you call yourself being angry at somebody, those are your personal issues that you did not want to address. You didn't take them to God. If you did take them to God, you picked them up and brought them back with you. So with that being said, you have to stop doing that and stop letting people do that to you. So forgive those folk and leave those folk alone, because they have, as according to Proverbs 4:23, they got issues. So out of the heart are the issues of life, your problems, your issues, and some of those issues are very nasty. And unfortunately, some of you are taking it and you don't have to take it. You keep going back and you keep going back. I'm not speaking from what I heard. I'm speaking from what I've lived. A few times, as a matter of fact. You can't keep going back to folk who keep cussing you out. You can't keep going back to folk who keep blaming you and calling you all out your name because you won't agree with them. You can't keep going back to folk, no matter how much they love and how much you love them. Physical and mental abuse is not tolerated and is not promoted in the Bible. So after all of that stuff was done, there was always chastisement and all that kind of stuff in the Bible. But all that stuff was not promoted. If it was promoted by an enemy. Don't let your friend become your enemy because you fail to forgive them. Be their friend, but be their friend from a distance so that you can move on with your life. Unbelievable failure to forgive will cost you valuable space. However, your mind is crowded. Clean it up. Move the crowd. Push them out the door like you do in the club. Push them out. Too many in here. Failure to forgive people could cost you eternity with God. If God does not forgive you, have you ever thought where you could end up and how horrific life could be? Have you thought that if God does not forgive you, it is because you did not forgive someone else? Imagine going before God and going through the pearly gates, and he shows you that your life was worthy as you helped the less fortunate, attended services weekly, gave your last at times to the church, prayed well, sang hard, taught flawlessly, preached impeccably, but you harbored a hurt and failed to forgive that one sister or brother who violated you, and you had carried it into death, into the realm of eternity. The Bible does not say God will turn you away, but it does say he will not forgive you for something you may have done that really needed to be forgiven. The Bible does not cover what happens, but utilize your Holy Ghost imagination and think of what God would do to you for not forgiving that one person. People are not in churches anymore because of church hurt. Church hurt stems from people in the position of authority in a ministry abusing their authority and acting more like a dictator instead of a God-fearing leader. But on the flip side of that, let me say this. You got people that are in the ministry who fight the leadership and think they can do things better than the leader. And if the leader don't do what they say do, then they will cause chaos in the life of the leader. No one else, just the life of the leader. You have saints coming into service each week, and when they see the person in authority over any part of the ministry, they get upset because they refuse to forgive them. Now look at the effect. You are upset, and the one who hurt you is going on because you are not man or woman enough to call them to the side and let them know that you are hurt. Let me tell you something. When you let folks know that you hurt and they don't stop doing it, you need to let them go. You need to let them go because that is blatant disrespect. When you do let them know it and they apologize for it, you are to forgive them and move on with your Christian life. Forgive them if they don't apologize. Forgive them if they don't apply that, because like we just told you, that comes to issues of life. You'll find out what's really going on when they're angry or when they're drunk. Notice, you are the one hurt. Notice, you are the one who gets sick when you don't forgive them and when you see them. You are the one whose spirit is down when you think about it. You are the one who goes to tears and have to walk out into the foyer to compose yourself and come back in and sit there and glare because you failed to tell them about the error of their ways. And when you get somebody accusing you of doing stupid stuff and saying that you all this and all that, and you smile at them and laugh at them and they get angry, it is because of the fact that you have already forgiven them. Because you know, number one, it's not true. Number two, they got issues of their own that they got to deal with, but they fail to take it to God and they want to take it out on you. When you get to that level of maturity where you can smile and just walk away, trust and believe they will be the one crying. Trust and believe they'll be the one thinking. Trust and believe they gonna say, I ain't kissing your feet and I ain't kissing your behind to get along with you. You're not doing anything to get along, because what you said told me I need to get away from you. You can't get along with somebody that cusses you out. You can't get along with somebody that fusses with you. You can't get along with somebody constantly accusing you of doing stupid stuff. You can't get along with somebody that's berating you. You can't get along with somebody that's talking down to you. You can't get along with somebody that's trying to dog you out. You can't get along. So you move on. You are the one all hurt and everything if you don't forgive. If you refuse to talk and communicate with people who love to see people hurt and tell them that they are out of order when hurting you, then they will continually hurt you because you let them do it. Each time a person is an idiot and keeps repeating and imposing the same hurt, you go right back to him or her and let them know it. How many times? Matthew 18:22 states 70 times 7 is how many times you should forgive them. That is a total of 490 times to forgive them. If a person doesn't realize they have offended you repeatedly with the same offense within the amount of forgiveness, then quit dealing with them. Forgive them and wait on God to make a power move in that area of your life. You must forgive them so you can live. Forgiveness is for you, cyber congregation, and not for them. Failing to forgive can cost you a lot of unnecessary pain. People are still walking around today refusing to forgive others. These are the ones who think they will find consolation in a bottle of liquor, but they don't. They're a hypodermic needle, but they don't. They try to find it in a lottery ticket, gambling in the casino, on the dance floor, dropping it like it's hot, letting it down like it's warm. They try to find it shopping at the mall or down at the horse racing track, but they don't. They think they'll find consolation with multiple sex partners and lovers, but they don't. These things are short-lived, and if you lose, it adds to the pain of not forgiving. Sure, you can have a little fun in the sun, have your little sexual partner and all that stuff on the side, go ahead and do that. But if you continue to misuse and abuse that person, keep cussing that person out, you will find yourself by yourself, abuser and sexual partner. Let me put it to you like that. I'm real with this out here in cyberspace. Yes. So yeah, you're not people that's going to have a little fun and son. But if a person keeps getting cussed out and all that stuff, they're not going to sit around with you. They're not going to love you. They're not going to hold you. They're not going to console you. They're not going to wait on you. They're not going to do nothing else for you until you get yourself together. They're not the ones messed up. You really are. Forgiveness will open up an entirely new venue of consolation and restoration. Forgiveness will keep your mind clear and focused on what God has for your next assignment. You see, forgiveness is for you. You have to understand that everyone makes choices. When someone chose to violate you as a child and they are now dead and buried, you need to choose to forgive them and then become proactive against molestation of children. When someone chose to physically abuse you and burn you with cigarettes or torture you in other kind of ways with other different type of techniques, you need to choose to forgive them and become an advocate against physical abuse. When someone chose to rape you in prison or on the street or in the corner or in an alley, in your car, somewhere in the office or somewhere, and now they are either locked up, on the run somewhere, or dead, you need to choose to forgive them no matter how hard it may be and become an advocate and an icon for rape victims and show others how to see the signs of a person attempting to get close enough to them to do that type of harm to them. When you still do this, you will find forgiveness is an actual antidote for the hurt. When Someone chose to mentally abuse you and tell you that you still will never be nothing. You choose to forgive them and let God take you and show them how successful you have become down through the years. When you have grown up in a house where your father beat on, cussed out, and abused the family, you need to choose to forgive him and his idiotic behavior, and become a counselor for families. When you have found that your loved one has stepped outside of the house and he or she tells you they apologize for doing so, then even if you divorce, you need to choose to forgive them and become a relationship counselor. You see, what hoarding old issues can do to you, it can cause you mental and sometimes physical stress due to a failure to forgive. Jesus told us to forgive or God would not forgive us. It is beneficial to forgive people and if necessary, move away from them until they get it together. If they never get themselves together, you pray for them to find their way and you move on with your life. Forgiveness is for you and not for them. Why would you want a home defeated by the devil? Why go home discouraged in your spirit? Why go home feeling sorry for yourself? Why go home singing and sobbing the blues? Why go home with misery and frustration? Why go home with less than you came with? Why go home empty in your soul? It is all because you refuse to forgive and remind the offender that they are acting crazy all over again. Forgiveness lightens the load on the soul. Forgiveness allows the troubled mind to become peaceful. Forgiveness allocates room for the Holy Spirit to come in and heal the wound you have kept open all these years because you have refused to forgive that one person that caused you that hurt. Old habits die hard, and a person who loves to see others cry, suffer, and hurt must be told 490 times that they are out of order. Somewhere within that 490 times, God will send them a clear message to either get it right or get out. So forgive them and move forward with your life. When you forgive, God will forgive you for the things that you don't even realize that you needed to be forgiven for in your life. Forgiveness is for you and not for them. All the best and God bless. I know it's Friday and not Thursday, but I had to put this message out there. This is a longer one. I hope it helps you. I hope it encourages you, and I hope it empowers you to get up off your rusty dusty and not take the mess off of people no more. Love you, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening in on the Right Rev Rhino Show. This is your host, the Right Rev Rhino, AJ, the Right Rev Rhino Watkins, pastor of Simonton Genesis Ministries, and we will talk to you later on, Lord willing. Be blessed. Talk to you next week.